What's a harsh truth that humans refuse to accept? You can be a good person your entire life and still have a shitty life. This is probably the most depressing. This one hits home so much. I did the entire work hard thing. Got a degree. Pay taxes. All for nothing. I'm now on disability, which took me 3 years to fight for. And now I'm portrayed as a leech on society. My rent alone is over half my income. Another quarter spent on medication. Yet I did everything I was supposed to do. And still failed. Some people really shouldn't have kids. The dumbest people are having the most kids. And that's how we end up in idiocracy. People have said a lot of horrible things about you behind your back. No matter how kind and awesome a person you are, there will always be people who don't like you. Don't waste your time trying to recruit them. There is a relation between attractiveness and success. I keep hearing this. But the rich people I know are so fugly I don't even know how to process. HR is not there to protect you. It is in place to protect the employer from you or from your actions. In Germany, the employers have worker units in any company bigger than a certain number of people. And they do protect you. They also actually have political power to protect the workers. My aunt had been elected as leader for 20ish years in her company. There's always someone better than you at whatever you are doing. I am a lazy balding fat ass. It's comforting to know there'll always be someone lazier, balder, and fatter than I am. The correlation between competency and corporate position is not strong. My dad works as a clerk at an electronics shop. His boss is an idiot who cannot do anything. Can't even lead management and don't have any experience in electronics. Heck. His employees have to log in into his email. To add, he gets so much money per month. But his employees get the minimal wage pay. Sometimes things just stop working. Out of no fault of yours or theirs or anyone's. But just because. Some people change. And some people don't. And inevitably, some things between those changing and unchanging people will stop working. Edit. Thanks for the awards, kind strangers. Ouch, this one is the only one that really stings. As someone who has watched something similar happen with their parents, this is what terrifies me the most. I hope to one day find a wife to grow old with. But my parents' marriage doesn't fill me with hope. You can explain your point without screaming at someone. On the flip side, just because someone is calm doesn't mean that what they're saying makes any sense. Getting a job comes down to whether or not the interviewer liked you or not. Yo, I mentioned this the other day. I lost out on a very nice job and later found out that pretty much the sole reason I was rejected was because when the hiring team took me to lunch after my interview, I ordered a steak, which I guess isn't appropriate for lunch. Double quote. What kind of baby back bullshit is that? Unless you're a famous historical figure, you will be completely forgotten within a few decades of your death. That's actually the origins of the famous saying, quiet women rarely make history, but so few seem to know that. The woman who penned it meant that there was a lot of women throughout history that did great, well-needed work. But no one writes or even thinks about them because women's work isn't valued. A lot of women worked quietly behind the scenes of pinnacle historical moments. That most of us aren't really that special. I find that truth to be very sobering and comforting. But it seems many would disagree. I think criteria matters here. If we look at the butterfly effect, then one person's mere existence changes everything. But if we look at what we actually contribute to society, then I think you would be right. Kindness is rarely reciprocated, but be kind anyway. And never ever give up. The world is hard and cruel, but keep doing what you have to. Be smart about it, but don't let anyone deter you from being your best beautiful self. Yeah. It's rarely reciprocated, but it also makes both people feel good. But yeah. Rarely reciprocated. We are all biased. Especially those who think they are not. Bias is like an accent. You grow up thinking that you and the people around you don't have any. That there isn't necessarily someone for everyone. Lots and lots of people are lonely and unloved. I would argue that there are many someones, but that you have to be a good version of yourself to attain that anyway. Just work on being the best version of yourself and those people will reveal themselves. At your worst. No. Not many people who would otherwise work well will show up. Adults don't have all the answers, and when you're an adult people look to you for answers. The problem though is that some adults do think they have all the answers. The vast majority of who you are and the circumstances you're in are decided by factors outside your control. Edit. Apparently I posted this in the right thread. If you can't find the motivation to act unless you can believe you control the outcome, maybe that's a problem with you and not with easily observable facts about the reality we share. Likewise, that you would be unable to feel and respond appropriately when you've fallen short or harmed someone else without the illusion of control is not a commentary on my lifestyle. Finally, just because something is outside your control doesn't mean it's within something else's. Authority figures are put in place to keep bad people from doing bad things. But there's nothing that assures the authority figure is good. That's why the US Constitution has the Second Amendment. For when all else fails. The attempt was to be we the people instead of we the subjects of the United States. Earth has a finite amount of resources and there are too many people using them. The problem is not that there are too many people. It's that the resources are being wasted on infinite expansion over the means of production. We are producing so much that we do not use so the rich can get richer. You're not the main character. And sometimes you're not as important as you think you are. I prefer to look at it in a different way. You are the protagonist in your story. But everyone else also has a story where they are the protagonist. Some people are dumb or don't want to study. Putting them in the same class as smart people who do want to study is like putting a zombie infected in a room full of healthy people. This is why we need ability-based classes. Where I went to high school, we had 4 classes. 1 for dumb kids, 2 for average kids and 1 for gifted. Of course. They weren't labeled obviously. But as an example of differences. In history, the smart class wrote a 3,000 word essay. The average classes wrote a 1,000 word essay and the dumb class wrote a 500 word response. I know some people will criticize that. But it worked. Kids in the dumb class weren't university bound. So they just didn't need all the extra stuff anyhow. Many of them still went on to get jobs or complete vocational training. Many of the kids in the smart class have advanced degrees. Gross inequality of opportunities and abilities is the norm in life and biology. Some people really are born attractive, smart, and charming. They have it all. Equality of opportunity will guarantee vastly different outcomes. You can't have it both ways. Life isn't fair and it never will be. We can hope that karma is real in the greater scheme of things, but in my experience, waiting for people to get what's coming to them is pointless. I've known shitty people that have taken shortcuts, cheated, etc. and they've made out just fine. I've also known people that have done everything right and behaved honorably and gotten absolutely screwed. Everyone comes into this planet with nothing and leaves with f-king nothing. Yet we keep chasing things in life that doesn't really matter much and don't value the things that makes life truly worth living. You decide what matters to you, not society. And that includes money and material things. I don't care about getting married. I want cars. Without failure there is no growth. You can't eliminate poverty by giving people money. Not indefinitely. And not in the long term, but if you give people enough to improve themselves, it can help. Some people are in crisis mode and cannot hope to ever dig themselves out of the hole. Sometimes they're there because of their own poor choices, but sometimes they are not. An investment into those members of our society sometimes doesn't work out and they end up leeching off the system. That is a price I am happy to pay, because sometimes that investment allows people who want to be productive members of society to become just that. Everything is temporary. There will always be people willing to exploit others if it means making money. And they'll always find a way to do it. Not everyone is fit for college. I'm a math tutor at my college. And that's definitely true. There are so many people who just do not have the work ethic to be in college. It's more often because of work ethic than intelligence. Because I've seen a lot of people go from not being able to understand anything to being really good at it. However, the people who don't put effort in almost exclusively end up failing. Nobody cares unless you're pretty or dying. Double quote. It doesn't matter how smart you are. If you were born into a poor family, your chances of making it are extremely stacked against you. Chances are you will stay in the class you were born in. There is very little upward mobility in society. This is exactly why I hate listening to success stories. Especially the rags to riches ones. Yes, I won't deny that they worked their asses off, and I don't mean to discredit their efforts. But you can't ignore the fact that these people are just the outliers. For every single rags to riches story out there are millions of people who still can't get 2 meals a day. Pride Month, Black History Month, and other months are overlooked because they are flooded with corporations attempting to capitalize on it, only to completely forget about what the month means in the first place. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We need to adapt to our surroundings instead of constantly whining about the changing world. Wearing a mask doesn't make you a sheep. It shows you're mature enough to abide by CDC guidelines and listen to experts. If you could read the thoughts of those around you, you would become a recluse and would have completely lost all the faith you once had in your fellow human beings. I would contend that this really depends on who you surround yourself with. I would also contend that you feel this way due to the nature of your own thoughts. We unconsciously imagine that other people's mental lives are rather similar to our own. Often they're not. We have been, and will continue to have some form of racial bias, racist tendencies within ourselves, within society. If you don't believe me, I want you to look at any classroom or cafeteria without assigned seating. As for outside of something like high school, almost any public place, we naturally segregate. We're destroying our planet. No, we're not. The planet is going to be absolutely fine. The only thing we might be destroying is our own ability to live on it. The illusion of control. There is no real control. Anything can go wrong at any moment. We can have safeguards and precautions. But ultimately, control is non-existent. Humans ruined their own survival of the fittest and also screwed their own evolution. Now pretty much everyone has to wear glasses and hereditary diseases are rampant. And it keeps getting worse and worse. 1. No matter who dies next to you, you always die alone. 2. Most people are in relationships to not be alone, not cause they're happy. 3. That I'm f***ing their mom. We don't know who we really are. Vast majority of our decision making stems from subconscious parts of the brain that are not readily accessible to our conscious minds. Our sense of self is largely a story we keep retelling ourselves, to the point that it feels like 100% fact to ourselves. It would be entirely possible to manipulate one's brain to completely change one's personality. Likes and dislikes. Pretty much entire schema of who they are and how they view life and themselves. And to this person afterwards all of this would feel completely natural and as if this is how they always were. This has been observed sometimes in patients with certain types of traumatic brain injury. Religion has caused more death and violence through the ages than video games and TV could ever dream of. Everyone will die. Everyone. You. Me. Your kids. The stranger across the street. Everyone dies in the end. All of your struggles will only get you so far. And in the grander scheme of things they won't matter at all. Our lives here are not permanent. Shouldn't we have the right to choose when we die? Shouldn't we try to love others? Shouldn't we try to protect our planet for the generations that haven't come yet? Everyone dies. And that's okay. Grandpa was right when he said we were headed to hell in a handbasket. And his grandfather before him. Our grandchildren may well be blessed with a dreadfully long and hollow life. Stripped of autonomy in service to our empires. Of course there will be a few lucky ones. whose luxuries are afforded to them through the pain and suffering of those beneath them. So it goes. It's one of the great ironies of the universe that the human race has adapted to every natural environment on the planet, but will go extinct because they cannot adapt to the one environment they created for themselves.